You know, it's interesting because in every story that I've had on the show, it's everybody has their own unique journey to get to where they're at. But one thing that I've always noticed is where they're at is exactly where they're supposed to be at that moment. And it's funny because they go through different struggles and triumphs and everything in their journey. Today on the show, we're going to be interviewing an individual who didn't have the picture perfect quote unquote career going through high school and college, but it was the exact journey that he was supposed to be on to get to where he is today. And with that, he can share a lot of information and a lot of knowledge and give a lot of advice to those young athletes that are out there right now because his story is extremely inspiring. It's one that will teach you how to put your trust and your faith in the right things, build the right foundation with work ethic and trusting the process and faith and networking and relationships and continuing to move forward towards your goal consistently, I should say, to get to where you want to be. You don't want to miss this episode of the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. I am your host, Shane Larson. This is episode 210 of the podcast. We've made it 4.5, almost 5 years. We're closer to 5 years than we are 4.5 at this point. And it's thanks in large part to the listeners of the show. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, welcome aboard. I'm excited to have you. It's a great interview, a great story that you're going to hear today. And I just appreciate your support. If you've been with us since the beginning or you jumped on board midway somewhere in there, just appreciate anybody who's ever supported the show, whether you've subscribed to the podcast, left me a review on my podcast for Apple Podcasts, or if you've simply just followed me on social media. Any of those things, any support of the show has been much appreciated. And it's thanks to you guys for where the show's at today. And we continue to grow. We're currently, as we speak right now, in 92 different countries. But who knows? Maybe you'll be listening to this interview a year down the road and we'll be in 100. So we're continuing to grow. It continues to get out to new people. And I just want to say thanks to the listeners out there. Today's story is awesome because we're going to be hearing from our guest about perseverance, going through the struggles that a lot of athletes, you don't hear a lot of these stories because typically in sports, you hear about the top dogs, everybody like the high school elites that are going through all these different camps and getting full ride scholarships to these D1 universities or, and then they go for a year and go pro. You don't really hear the stories of the guys who are what I would even call a late bloomer maybe, or even those that are just, they're grinding on the back end, working silently, if you will. And today we're going to get to hear a story just like that from Ryle Owens. So Ryle, thanks for joining the show, man. I'm looking forward to speaking to you today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely, brother. So for the listeners out there, and from what I've gathered, I want to kind of go back in time a little bit, Ryle, because you're a basketball player. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. I want to know your basketball history prior to now. Like, let's go back in time, rewind the clock, and talk to you about how long you've been playing ball. When did you first pick up a basketball, and like, what's your history in the sport?
Okay, so honestly, I was pretty much born with a basketball in my hand. Like my mom used to play back these old videos. I was born in 1997. Like she has videos of me in 1998 actually shooting basketballs. So like,
oh dang.
I probably learned how to shoot before I knew how to walk. I just been playing basketball for a long time, pretty much my whole life. Yeah, so that's where I started.
That is crazy. That's a really young age. I'm hoping my 18-month-old son will be. He's the one who's more intrigued than my 5-year-old. He always is picking up the basketball and he's always trying to run around with it, but he's definitely not shooting it yet. But I'm hoping that maybe he'll follow your lead there and stick with that. Here's my question then. Did you play multiple sports growing up at all, or were you mainly focused on basketball?
Yeah, I played a lot of sports. I played baseball, basketball, football. I played pretty much everything. I'm one of those athletes who's good at everything, but I really just stuck to baseball, basketball, and football.
three traditional main sports, but you're truly an athlete. That's what I kind of wanted to get at. I want to get your thoughts on that too, real quick, Ryle. In regard, I mean, obviously basketball is kind of where you've taken your life and your career, right? But do you feel like playing multiple sports for those athletes out there that might be younger athletes listening to the show? Do you feel like being a multi-sport athlete helped you? Did like baseball help you with basketball? Did basketball help you with football and so forth? Do you feel like that, or do you think that you should probably focus on one?
I honestly think that you should play like a bunch of sports when you're younger. I feel like it just helps with a lot of things that goes into every sport. So, not really just on the physical side, but like, dealing with other teammates, mental stuff, like coaches. Like, I feel like you should be involved in more sports. Like for me, I knew football helped a lot with basketball in terms of the weight training that we did. You know what I'm saying? And that was like a bigger, that impacted me a lot with basketball. It helped me a lot with basketball. So I feel like
Yeah.
you should play multiple sports.
I thought that was an interesting point you made right there about like different teammates and different coaches. Because I guess you're right in like if you're talking to a high school athlete, right, and they just play basketball, even if you're going through the ranks of like the JV and varsity, you're still in the same program, so you typically have the same coaches, whether they're a JV coach or varsity, but you're still in contact with the varsity coach if you're on JV because it's the program, they run the program, so all the coaches are together all the time. So you're just kind of used to the same system. Whereas if you're playing other sports, you're getting different types of teammates, you're dealing with different types of people, you're dealing with different types of coaches and different ways that they approach it, which I honestly think is huge for just life in general, because you're going to have different bosses later on in life. You're going to have different coworkers in life. You're going to have family members maybe that you don't get along with, cousins and whatever. And you're going to have to learn how to adapt to different styles of communication with different types of people. So it's the first time I've ever heard somebody say that. And then the physicality, I always thought it was interesting. The football players who played basketball, especially as we got into our junior and senior year in high school back in the day. Yeah, that was a big thing. You could tell a difference like in their athleticism if they were playing football too, because there's just a different mentality with the football players in their weight training, and they come back into basketball and they were a whole different animal, like from one year to the next year. It's crazy. So I totally agree with that. I think that's a really good point. Now tell the listeners what positions you played in each one of those sports.
So honestly, baseball was not a sport that I played, or I played organized like little league baseball, but like I didn't continue all the way up to high school. But in football, I played defensive back and wide receiver. So like I was on both sides of the ball, and then basketball, I played combo guard, so point guard and shooting guard.
Okay, so you're an all around athlete for sure. You're like the shifty guy. What's your height right now? Like what are you at right now?
I'm 6'3", 180 pounds.
6'3", 180. Just for reference, for people to understand that. Like, so I always put this in terms. That's actually that's a stacked frame, because people don't realize like Steph Curry is like 6'3", and people don't realize how he looks small in the court, but he's actually big. That's right. That's a big body. That's an athletic body. That's crazy. Okay, 6'3", 180. That's stacked. Especially as a guard. If you're a point guard, I want people to realize that there's a lot of point guards around here that are like 5'8". Like, yeah, you try to guard a 6'3", 180 guy coming down the court. Yeah, it's a little bit, it's tough, especially somebody who has wide receiver experience. You know how to break, you know how to run, and you got the defensive experience too. That's crazy. Where did you grow up, Ryle? Just to kind of, where'd you play high school sports at? Like, what state were you in, and what was it like in that realm? Because we're gonna get into your high school career, because I know there were some ups and downs there from what I had studied, but I want to know where you grew up and where you were playing ball at.
So I'm from Port Royal, South Carolina. Like I said, I pretty much lived there my whole life. I went to a school called Beaufort High School, 4A. It was a in South Carolina, that's a big school, 4A. But like in Texas, they have like 7As and all of that. But I went to a pretty big school in South Carolina, and I was there my whole life. So I just pretty much came up in the ranks from elementary, middle to high school. It's all the same system, pretty much. It's only a handful of schools in my town. So I went to high school there, and then I just started playing basketball. I played basketball every year, so that's pretty much where it started at.
What's South Carolina's high school scene look like? Like, what is that like over there compared to like maybe that? Because like I'm in Idaho, okay, so I'm on the other side of the country, and we're working to get there, like to get some more exposure for it. But like Texas, for example, you just referenced like Texas, they've got their high school football scene especially is like pretty well known around the country, right? What's the high school scene in basketball and football for South Carolina?
So if I'm being honest, when I was in high school, it was terrible. Like recruiting was the hardest part. I feel like especially for basketball. Like in my city, there's nobody who's ever like went Division 1 or professional in basketball. So I actually was the first person in my city, from what I know of, or like the first person in like 40 years to get like a Division 1 offer. And then I have a younger brother who's, well, he's not my actual brother, but a younger friend. He's like a few years after me. He's the first person in our city to actually go Division 1. So it was it's a big deal where we're from if you're, one of the guys making it for basketball. Football, we produce NFL players left and right. So it's like, I don't know how that works, but I literally went to school with like 4 or 5 NFL players. Like, it's just, I think the focus is more on football in our area than basketball, but the recruiting is terrible for basketball.
Wow. Okay. Interesting how one sport to another sport can be completely different where you're at. You're producing professional NFL talent over there for one sport, and then obviously in the basketball realm, it's completely different. See, that's the kind of thing I wish listeners, the casual fans, would understand, is that it makes it difficult for athletes like yourself to get exposure when the recruiting is terrible and you got to try to make an impact. Like here in Idaho, we're trying our hardest, like myself and a couple other media outlets, to try to get more exposure to the kids over here, because here no one's looking at Idaho. I mean, you'll look at Boise State University from time to time, but they're not even Idahoans for the most part. It's a lot of kids that we recruit from other states. But the Idaho high school athletes, it's tough to get them the exposure they deserve. And there's some good athletes. But I want to hear about your high school basketball career, because this is where things got interesting, because you're a hooper, you're an athlete. But from what I understood when I was researching your story, your career, especially like your senior year, it wasn't necessarily like what you might have hoped it could be, right? And I want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's talk about your senior year, what you were going through, and why it might not have been exactly what you thought it was going to be.
So coming up through high school, like everybody knew I played basketball. Like I wasn't one of those guys who was just like, everybody knew basketball is what I was gonna do. It was just like, it was very tough because like I always had to deal with something. So it was like ninth grade, made varsity, but I didn't believe in my own self. So I went back to JV, didn't play much on JV. So I went back up to varsity for my 10th grade year. And my 9th through 11th grade year, we had like a traditional coach, been in the system for like 50 years, like one of those coaches. And pretty much, I'm not from the same side of town. So, I mean, I'm not that type of dude to say like, oh, they play favorites or this and that. But like, I was always playing behind somebody when I had the talent to play with or above them. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Totally.
yeah. So my senior year, 9th through 11th grade, I didn't really play a whole lot. My 11th grade year, I was like a 6th man, so I started to get more time. I had some big games my 11th grade year, and then senior year we had a coaching change. Some coach from out of town came and switched, so he didn't know anybody. He literally just we had tryouts all over again, even if we were on the team the previous year, and he just went off of what he saw, and he started me, kind of made me the go-to player my senior year. So senior year was a big deal for me. Kind of late to get started on film and stuff like that for recruiting purposes, but I had a pretty good senior year, but I was dealing with like major knee problems my senior year. So I would just like go through walkthroughs. I wouldn't practice, but I was always playing games. I was taking medicine, trying to, relieve pain and stuff like that. But I ended up having double knee surgery after like the day after I graduated high school. Yeah, so it was a tough year. But my senior year actually went pretty good. I averaged almost 20 points a game. I was a starter. I made all region and all of that. So everything was pretty good in terms of basketball for my senior year.
That's what's interesting. And I want to kind of touch base on this. So going up through the ranks, 9th through 11th, you're struggling because the coaching and like you said, I think a lot of kids go through this at different stages where they feel like their talent level is like you said it perfect. Like you can play with or above that person. Like, you're just as good, if not better. And would make a bigger impact for your particular team. But sometimes the coaches, it's hard. And I'm not going to blame coaches for everything, because I too am a coach now at a club level. I coach for the AAU level. It's not the high school level, but I do coach 16, 17-year-old kids that are sophomores, juniors in high school. And so I see the difficulties that a coach will have, but I do also believe that a coach can make or break a situation. And so sometimes like you got to be patient. I want to know your thoughts though, because did you know there was going to be a coaching change? First off, Ryle, did you know there was going to be a coaching change going into your senior year?
Honestly, no. And to be honest, like I also picked up coaching like in my little year off, so I completely understand what coaches go through. And now that I look back on it, I don't blame the coach. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, okay, maybe I wasn't ready for that time or whatever, but like it's like, it's a tough situation being a coach, seeing it from a coach's view and a player's view. But no, I have no I had no idea that a coach was going to come in. I didn't even know like our coach was going to retire or anything. Um I had no clue, but I guess
Okay, so it was a surprise. It was a surprise to you in the program.
yeah.
That's crazy. And what's funny that you say that, I want to also say this. I go back to my times now that I'm a coach, like now that I have coaching experience, I would have literally punched me in the mouth if I was coaching myself. I see things so much differently. And I wasn't like this problem athlete or anything like that. It's not like I was a star player, but I just the way that I conducted myself sometimes and just goofed off in practice at times.
Yeah.
Man, just the frustration, the patience that certain coaches have to have with younger athletes. It's just funny. But you're going into, so this is what I want to ask you and get your expertise on, because you didn't know there was going to be a coaching change. So to you at that time, if you go back in time, you're struggling to get some playing time. There's probably some frustrations there because you obviously are a talent. How did you mentally, like, what was your mentality? How did you compose yourself to say, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going and keep trusting the process? Obviously, the coaching change happened. You were able to prove yourself later and have an amazing senior season, but not knowing that was going to happen, how did you stay there trying to like continue moving forward with the goal?
Me personally, like I always knew this is what I wanted to do. So I feel like if you just continue to work hard, keep God first and stuff like that, I just feel like things are gonna work out like they're supposed to. So I mean, you have your ups and downs, but like I never had the idea of quitting or any of that. I was just like, it's still early. Just in high school. I still have a whole lifetime, to get some basketball opportunity. So I just kind of stuck with it. And sure enough, when the coach came in, and he coached some high level players in the state. Actually coached like the number one player in the state at the time, and it was just he recognizes talent. So like he's all about winning, recognizes talent. So when he came in, I always been like a good attitude kid and like very coachable and stuff. So I just pretty much stayed out the way, but did what was asked of me, and then when the opportunity met, preparation, put it together, and it was perfect.
Yeah, dude, what do they say? Like luck is when, what is it? What is the whole thing when
Yeah,
preparation meets opportunity?
opportunity, yeah, something, yeah. So it was something I definitely put it together and made something happen.
Heck yeah, dude. You just kept grinding and kept believing in yourself, kept believing in the process. And I love that you said you put God first. Like if you do what you're supposed to do, put God first, eventually it'll work itself out, but you got to keep moving. You got to keep grinding. Going into your, senior year, you're playing with the injuries that you were saying, like your knees were bugging you, like you had some pain there. What was your workouts like? Like what was a day like for you? Like talking about rehab, what was the film study like? What was your work ethic in high school, especially your senior year, where you kind of started to peak a little bit? You're like, okay, here we go. The momentum started rolling. I want to share that with the younger athletes too, and maybe the parents and coaches that are hearing, like, what did it take for you that senior year to kind of get to those numbers, averaging 20 plus a game?
So if I'm being honest, I never like I said, in my city, the knowledge and exposure about basketball is very little. So I really had no idea that we were supposed to be working out. I just used to be outside playing every day. That's how much I love the game. But I had no idea I was supposed to be doing, on the court drills. And I was just one of those people who played every day. So basketball came in easy for me. But like in terms of working out, skill development and stuff like that, had no clue until my senior coach came in. And like I said, he's had a lot of experience in the coaching world and coached some high level players. And he's the person who introduced me to working out. He was like, listen, if you want to go to the next level or whatever, I understand you're good, but you're not good enough. Like you have to keep working, you have to put in the time. So once that clicked with me, I'll go through a day. Like, high school, you only have one practice, whatever, it's not a big deal. But I would like, go through school. We'll have practice at the end. And I would kind of stay after and do extra shooting, or I'll go home and work on some things. Like I started to develop a habit of working out, but still at that time, I'm brand new to it. So I really didn't have an idea of what to do. But I would just look up stuff and be like, okay, like let's do some ball. Let's shoot a lot. I like to shoot anyway, so shooting wasn't a problem. It didn't feel like a workout. I was just outside shooting. But he definitely introduced me to the process of, weights, therapy, on the court development. He introduced me to that whole process, and it's late because I'm a senior, but it's good to start somewhere instead of not starting at all.
Better late than never, right? And I want to ask you this: do you feel that helped your game? I mean, obviously the statistics show that, but I want to know you personally. Do you feel that helped you as an athlete go into the? We'll get into your college career, but do you feel that helped prepare you for the next level?
Yes, definitely. I'm not sure how much it helped, being that I started so late, and I only had like a year of it, but I definitely feel like it did help, and I feel like if kids started earlier, that they would be exactly where they want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like where I'm from, kids don't really want to work out; they just want to play basketball. They don't really take it serious, but like it's a reason why there's only a few people from where I am to make it. You know what I'm saying? Like it makes sense because the kids aren't really being taught the correct thing. So like now that me and, like I said, my younger friend are living, walking examples, we can kind of introduce them to that. And that's why I got into coaching, really, because I want to help kids where I'm from take the right path instead of the traditional way we've been doing it for so long. I want to kind of break that and get kids more exposure, introduce them to the real lifestyle of real basketball, stuff like that.
Totally, man. I think that's awesome. You can be the example for those younger kids. Now knowing what you know, you're the example, so you're the expert. You can show them the way. Um, Going into college, you mentioned, obviously senior year is kind of like the year that you finally got to get playing and show yourself, but that's not a lot of time for film. Plus, a double knee surgery definitely hinders things a little bit in regards to the recruiting process. Plus, you said the recruiting sucked anyways where you were from. So talk to us about that. You ended up going to play at a junior college, and I actually want to talk about a junior college experience. A lot of kids where we're from, Ryle, are, like I said, I'm from Idaho, and these kids are like, oh, it's D1 or bust. And I'm like, well, more than likely you're going to be playing for an NAIA school or you're going to be playing JUCO. That's just the reality of it, is to at least start. That's just, it doesn't matter if you're a 6'10", forward over here. The reality is the recruiting isn't coming over to Idaho yet. And so you're going to be playing at a JUCO level or NAIA. But I believe, after having followed a lot of junior colleges around the country, some are better than others, obviously, but I believe there's some extremely good talent there. But I want to know about your junior college experience. What was it like playing ball there? What was the student athlete feel? Because you have to go to school, keep your grades up, all that stuff. Talk to us about what junior college was like for you.
So to start things off, I'm just gonna keep it plain and simple, raw and uncut. I'm not gonna sugarcoat the whole process. So so when I went to junior college, it was in a very small town, Walterboro, South Carolina. Doesn't have much there, a few stores, whatever, a few lights. It's not much at all. I was on a campus that had two campuses. The campus I was on was the commuter campus, so it was no dorms, no CAF, no other sports, like no other students living there. It was literally all locals or people that would just commute in the campus. And then the main campus was like an hour away. And that's where they had the dorms and the other like the other students and other sports and stuff like that. So on my campus, it was literally just the basketball gym. And we played in like this really small gym, rubber floors, like didn't even have hardwood. Like it was rubber floors. Like I said, we had to find an apartment off campus that we had to pay out of pocket. No scholarships, no meal plans, no CAF. So literally, I had to pay tuition, books, food every day, apartment, a car to gas and drive around. Like on top of the apartment, we had to pay for all the bills inside the apartment. Like it was literally like if Last Chance U would do a documentary on my JUCO, it would be the real JUCO experience. It wouldn't be this glorified every stuff. So it was a crazy experience. Like we had 5 people living to like a 2-bedroom, like two to a room, and then one in the living room with a curtain. It was terrible, but fortunately for me, and not really fortunately, but I had a homeboy who passed, and he was from that city. So they made a scholarship in his name, and they gave it to me for my remaining 2 years of junior college, so I didn't have to pay for anything for my last 2 years, which was a blessing. But like I said, not really a blessing, but a blessing. But
For sure, for sure.
it definitely helped me out for the whole. I was there for 3 years. Like I said, I had surgery right after high school. So I went to junior college and redshirted my first year, and then I played my redshirt freshman and sophomore season.
Man, you're not the first person to tell me a similar story to that. And it's funny because on this show, I've interviewed various individuals, head coaches like Jason Brown from Last Chance U from seasons 3 and 4. I had him on the show. Mr. Compton, cigar smoking guy. I love Jason Brown. JB is a stud. But yeah, I had him on the show. I had Brittany Wagner from East Mississippi Community College. She was the academic advisor. Had her on the show a couple weeks back. And it's interesting. Each junior college experience is a little bit different. And junior college in California even has like one city to the next city is completely different. Every school is it's locally funded and it's different. It's just a different situation. And that's the reality. That's what I wanted to get from you. I'm glad you actually were willing to give us the raw details, because for those out there, you're going there and you're playing basketball, but there's a lot rubber floors, dude. Like that's what like an elementary school has. Okay. Like that's an elementary school style of, like, I don't even know how that's even possible or legal to have that for a junior college program, but that's just funny to me. Talk to us about the actual basketball side of it too. Like the living situation that, it just makes me laugh. It's actually miserable, but I bet that taught you a lot of life lessons. But the basketball side of things, how was the team? How were the practices? Do you feel like it helped you polish up your game before you went to that next level?
Yeah, like I said, I feel like everything happens for a reason, and I think I was meant to go junior college. We were a Division I junior college in like the top conference. We was like Region 10, so it was like one of the more competitive conferences in the nation. So we had some of the best competition. Like we had all these D1 transfers. Like I remember at the time there was a guy named Quay Parker. He was like a social media freak. He was just like all over social media. He transferred from a Division I, like Tennessee or something, to our junior college. So like we were seeing people that were on TV all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like playing all of these high level athletes and practices and everything. It was really like, eat or starve. Like everybody's trying to get out. Like everybody's trying to get a scholarship to a 4-year. So the teams that were successful played together and understood that if you win together, everybody's going to get looks. And then, the teams that weren't successful was literally like, crab in a barrel mentality. Everybody's trying to fight each other to get out. So sometimes it was like that in practice. A lot of emotion, good, bad, ugly. Like it was just a real humbling experience. But I feel like it was necessary. Like practices would sometimes be like you would have two guys literally fist fighting. And then at the end, like hugging it out, because like we understand that, it's like, man, we're all just trying to get to the next level. Like none of us have scholarships. We're trying to provide for ourselves, our family. Like it was a lot of raw emotions, but it was very good. Like I think the development I got there, the lessons I learned was influential in where I am now, for sure.
That is interesting. And I can imagine the raw emotions. I was going to ask you this. You kind of answered the question in my head was, people, are they all in it for themselves or are they in it for the team? Because junior college, you never know what people's motives are. You got bounce backs that are trying to make it back to a D1. You got guys who are just trying to get out to get to a 4-year. And yeah, everyone might have different motives. And then there's some people that I've talked to before, just in passing, that they just wanted to continue on their career for a little bit and get some education. So they don't plan on going get a scholarship. They could still play at a JUCO, so they still played at a JUCO, and then they move on to a 4-year and they don't ever play, but they just go to school and finish up their degree. And everyone's got different motives, and so sounds like the emotion is another thing you have to handle. It's a little different than a typical situation, but that is why I think junior college is such a good route, though, because it literally does prepare you for life. You go to a D1 university, some are going to treat you like royalty. It depends. Every one of those is different too, but you get kind of pampered as an athlete if you're on a scholarship. It's a different situation, and it's not a bad thing. You've earned it if you get to that point, but junior college that's raw. I mean, you were paying bills the first year, like you're doing all your stuff, you're sacrificing everything, you're playing ball, learning how to be a student athlete, getting your grades to at least be eligible to keep going on. And you learn a lot from that I don't think you necessarily get at the other level. But you talked about the recruiting in high school. Did you get more looks at the junior college level from recruiting side of things than you did at the high school level? Because I wanted to know, as we get more into your career moving forward after junior college, was that due to the recruiting being better at that JUCO level, or was that due to you just pushing yourself out there a little bit more?
So in high school, I actually had no recruitment. I kind of like finessed my way into this junior college. Word of mouth, my new coach knew this other guy. He took a look at me and was like, "Yeah, come out." Like, so really, like this junior college didn't have scholarships, so it was pretty much like whatever, come, we'll take your tuition money. Like
Yeah. If you can pay, we'll have you over here.
yeah, I ended up like he actually wanted me for the team. He didn't know I was having surgery, so I kind of like just finessed the whole thing. But when I got there, it wasn't too much he could do about it. So like I was kind of just stuck there. That was literally my only way into college. Like, I mean, if I wasn't playing basketball, I could have went to like USC or Clemson or something. Like grades were good, everything was fine. I just went to JUCO right for basketball because my recruitment was terrible. But once I got to junior college, I had another coaching change. So my first 2 years, had a really good coach. We had a good 2 seasons. So he got hired at a 4-year. So he left. And then we had another big time coach come in, but we weren't his recruiting class. So like he didn't really get things started how it was supposed to until the year after we left. So like he pretty much picked up where the other coach left off, got people to schools, and then the year after that is when everybody started going to all these crazy big D1s and stuff like that. But the recruitment was at the junior college level. I'm not sure if it was just because the connections my coach had or because of the level we were playing at, but we definitely had some big time schools come through. That's when I first started experiencing like official visits, and like not for me, but just for my teammates, because my recruitment still wasn't that great out of JUCO. But like I just seen like we'll have like big time schools like UNLV and all these like big Syracuse and all that come to our little small gym to see one of our players. And I'm like, wow, like I've seen that dude before. I seen this guy before. Like it was like it was an experience. But also being able to talk to those coaches in person, they're there for some of your teammates. But me personally, I would go ask questions, what does it take to, get recruited at this type of level? I'll get some numbers. I was just networking a lot, trying to help myself really. So that's how it out.
That's it. That's an important piece I would like to make sure we mark down too. Networking, like I like how you use the word finesse. I finessed my way into the junior college. Your coach had some connections, but that's how life is too. You got connections, you network. It's important to build relationships with people. Like I just love having this connection with you, and I just met you. You know what I mean? Like it's just cool to hear these stories. I connect with athletes just because I love to hear the stories, and I feel like an athlete, especially one that's gone through what you've gone through, would make the best like salesman or worker, and they're the best entrepreneurs because they've been through, so they know what it takes to work hard. And that's what I think is good for like the economy. Like I think it's amazing. Like, so huge thing about that. If any athletes are listening to this right now, especially younger guys, networking. So Ryle, you were saying even if those guys weren't even coming there for you, you're still chatting with them, you're asking them questions, which shows that you respect them and their opinion, but it also gets your name out there because they know who you are. And even if it's just like, hey, that guy was the one who shook my hand and asked me a question, well, at least they have you in their mind. And so that could eventually come back sometime down the road. What school did you end up going to after junior college? And how did you end up making it to the next level? If you said that your recruitment wasn't like even your recruitment wasn't top notch at the junior college level, how did you end up making it to the next level?
Finesse again. So like, after junior college, so me and like my sophomore year at junior college, like I said, we had a new coach and everything, and I was like being underappreciated again. You know what I'm saying? Like he brought in a new guy. It was just like a whole big situation again, just me being undervalued, underrated. I wasn't really getting recruited and put out to the Division 1 level like I was like I thought I should have been. So when coaches would come into the gyms, it would be like D2s, D1s. They would end up looking at me because of their own eyes see talent. And so like it wasn't really based off of what my coach was, because really your recruitment falls into the hands of your coach if you don't do it yourself. And like I was getting put out to some D2s, some NAIAs, a lot of D3s, which I wasn't going to accept, which is not a problem. I feel like if you have an opportunity to play after high school, take whatever you have. But in my case, Division 3s don't have athletic scholarships, and I just knew for a fact that I was a Division 1 caliber player. So I didn't want to be lowballed or underappreciated. So I signed up for a few showcases, like All-American available showcases, Didn't tell anybody, didn't tell my coach, anybody. Just me and my mom would go sign up for these showcases. And what's crazy is I ended up getting like 9 offers at one showcase, 9 official full ride offers at this one showcase. I went to like 2 of them. First one I played pretty solid and didn't hear too much from it. But the last one I went to, I ended up like being like the number 1 guy at the showcase. All these schools were there, and I got my opportunity that way. So I ended up getting offered from Alabama State, which is a Division 1. Kennesaw State is the reason I went out there. That's also another Division 1. They contacted me because I was emailing schools every day. So I was like literally had my resume and everything, and I would literally sit in the room and email like hundreds of coaches every day. Like each coach, each school has like each Division 1 school has like 7 staff members. They have video coordinators, assistant coaches, strength and conditioning coaches. I was emailing all of them, like people who weren't even really associated with the basketball part. I was just sending my stuff out there. So Kennesaw State reached out to me and was like, okay, come to this showcase, and we'll check you out. They didn't even end up coming, but I guess it was perfect because Alabama State saw me, and then all the other Division 2s I had were all like nationally ranked Division 2s. So like it was pretty, like I was obviously a Division 1 player at this point, and I proved that, being that I got some Division 1 and high level Division 2 recruitment. So I stayed home after my sophomore year of junior college. I committed to Alabama State from the showcase. They gave me a full ride. They scheduled an official visit, so they pay. They official visits, they pay for everything. So they offered me at the showcase on site, and then we're going through the paperwork and stuff after that. So the only thing I have left to do now is sign what you do on your official visit. So they contact my parents and get all the financial things situated so we can come out there. And the night before my official visit, Alabama State pulls back on me. So like he calls me. I'm supposed to leave at like 7 a.m. to go on my official visit and sign. It was already on the little verbal commits page that I was committed to Alabama State. Like it's already like published everywhere that Ryle Owens is going to Alabama State. Alabama State themselves even have it on their websites and stuff. It was crazy. Like it was pretty much a done deal. All I had left to do was sign. And the night before he calls me, and I'm thinking he's calling to make sure everything's good for me to come out the next day. He calls me and was like, hey, Ryle, sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we have to cancel your official visit to Alabama State. We decided to go with another guy. So I started asking questions like, who's this other guy? Like, like,
Yeah.
I was definitely like devastated. And this happened really late in the game. So, I was weighing my options with all 9. And then when I committed to Alabama State, all the other 8 went away. You know what I'm saying? Like I had a home. And this happened really late in the game. So by the time he pulled that offer from me, I contacted every last school that offered me again, and all of them were already full rosters. So I had to stay home for almost a year. And I got called from Young Harris, which is a high level D2, plays in the Peach Belt Conference, which is like debatably best conference in the nation for division. We have 4 nationally ranked teams in our conference and everything, so it's a pretty high level conference. But Young Harris was one of the schools that offered me before, and yeah, they offered me again. Like I started coaching at a high school, and in the middle of a game, I'm getting a call from Young Harris. Like my phone's blowing up. Like I've already like blowing up. So I step aside, take the call, and it's the coach from Young Harris, and he was like, if I told you I had a full ride scholarship again for you, would you come? And I was like, yes, like I have no choice. So that's pretty much how I ended up at my new school.
What a journey and a whirlwind. I mean, think about that. Like you've worked your tail off. You yourself have been emailing hundreds and hundreds of coaches, like your junior college experience. You're trying to get your name out there. You went to a showcases with you, doing this stuff. Like you're literally hustling. Like that's what you're doing. You're doing what it takes to get it done. You get an offer, Alabama State. It's a done deal. Late in the game, like you said, they decide to pull it, which I think is a Bush move. But we won't down all the colleges. I personally think, I'm sure there was some emotion there. That's one of the downsides to sports that people don't actually see, but that messes with people's livelihoods. And I don't like that. Obviously, hearing your story, it worked out for you later, but there was no guarantee that was going to happen. Like you said, you had to stay home and you're coaching now. Like that could have potentially been the end of it. For some people, that might be it. Be like, oh dang, I was late in the game. I'm okay. I guess I got to move on with life.
Right.
But what I respect about your story, Ryle, is the fact that one thing that I think people can take from this, and this is athletes all across the board, you've got to continue to work behind the scenes. Like you were coaching, that's great, but you hit up every team that you had already, I mean, they said no. Okay, well, your name's got to be out there, and you continue to hustle so that your name is out there. You can't just sit back and expect these things to come about. Like some people are gifted with the opportunities that are right there. Some people have to work a little harder for them, but you're a testament of, put the stuff out there and trust in the right people and do your thing. And if you put the hard work in, the right opportunity may exactly present. It might present itself. Going to Young Harris, talk to us about that experience, because that's where I saw some of your highlights, man, and that's where I was super intrigued with. I was just like, wow, man, this guy is athletic as all get out, man. What was your experience like over there? I know it's probably not the same. You're like, oh, it's not D1, but it is a high level D2. The competition you faced, the practices, the college experience there. Talk to us about that.
So Young Harris was actually like the perfect situation for me. Everybody gets caught up in wanting to go Division I, but I feel like if you go to a school that values you, and you should go where you're wanted. And this coach expressed that he really wanted to be, like, he expressed this early, even when he was one of the 9 offers I had. But I obviously turned them down to go to Division I, which didn't work out the way I wanted to. But once I got to the Division II, it turned out to be the best situation possible. So it was like I just so happened to go to one of the schools who had like the highest funding in the state of Georgia. So like I had like a full ride max scholarship. I'm going from like junior college to nothing, and then coming here and don't have to pay a dime and getting a little extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't have to pay a dime for anything. Like just the little things, like the school is very nice. It was in like the North Georgia, so the mountains. Great scenery. I had like it's different levels of scholarships, and like I said, I had the max scholarship, so I had so much $90 that I would pay for like other like teammates who didn't have it. Like I would just swipe my card so they can get Chick-fil-A or whatever. Like I had so much funding when it came to my scholarship. And I think a reason for that is that when I came in mid-season. So like I said, I already had missed like 18 games. He called me at the Christmas break, and he offered me again on a Saturday when I was coaching, and I had to be on campus by Monday. And
wow.
The school was 8 hours from me, and then I had to play in a game on Tuesday. So it was a very fast adjustment. But the whole time when I was home, I was working out every day, 3 times a day, conditioning, like doing all kinds of stuff. Just waiting for my opportunity. I'm big on faith, so I was praying a lot and stuff like that, hoping that my opportunity would come, and they did. So when I got to Young Harris, the coach, I get on campus Monday. Literally, like, the assistant coaches are like helping my parents unpack the car, and then like he throws me a jersey and was like, all right, go to practice. Like I walked straight out the car 8 hours and go straight into practice. So during the practice, he pretty much introduces me to the team, introduced me to everybody. And I'm thinking that it's going to be kind of like a lot of static and a lot of controversy, because I'm a new guy coming in mid-season, and I'm coming immediately to play. So I'm thinking that, my teammates aren't going to really like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not really a problem. So I'm pretty good with people, but they all embraced me with open arms. Like, it was a surprise. Like, they literally, like, they were losing, I guess. They weren't losing bad, but they were losing, not having such a great season. So when I came in, I guess they were just like, okay, cool. Like, he's here to help us. And coach made it clear, though. He was like, this is Ryle Owens. He's probably been one of our top recruits. He's coming in to play immediately. So, everybody embrace him. And that's exactly what happened. So for that whole, I think I played 14 or 16 games. I already missed 18 games of the season. So I played like the second half of it. And my season went ridiculous. Like, first game, my first 2 games was in South Carolina. So like, my
Oh, wow.
my family came. I had a lot of friends come because it was just like it wasn't really about the basketball. It was really just that, okay, Ryle is back playing, you know what I'm saying? Like he's back in school. So it was really more like a support thing. It really wasn't about how I performed. It was really just about, me being back doing what I love. So first game was in South Carolina. He puts me in the first 2 minutes of the game. I haven't had a practice or anything. I ended up scoring 14 or 15 points in like my first NCAA game in like forever. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then we had another game that following Friday. So like, and this was like a road tour, like one of the trips where you like don't really get to go back to school. You just like on like you go to this school, stay in a hotel, you travel to this other school. So like, I maybe had one practice in between my first and second game, and I still don't know much plays or anything. And then he starts me my second game in South Carolina. So I was surprised at that. And this game was crazy because I ended up having 25 like in my second game. And then third game, literally a week, like we had 3 games in a week. My third game of the week, we played in Florida and I had 30 points. Like it was just like my stats was just going up and up and up. So people was like, man, this dude was not at home chilling. He was at home waiting for opportunity. And so I started gaining some attention nationally within the conference and stuff because of what I was doing in the conference. So like I was getting contacted by all kind of people on Instagram, gained a good bit of followers and stuff like that. People like you that were just trying to hear my story. I remember going viral a few times just for a few things I was doing within these games. It was just like a big full turnaround, like from junior college being home and then going full ride to like the best player. It was a full turnaround and it was crazy.
I'd say I'm just sitting here listening to it and I'm thinking how many the ups and downs, but like the never guarantees to then that is just so awesome how it all, and it's a completely non-traditional route to getting to where you're at, but you kept going. You put your faith in the right places. You trusted the process, and I love the fact that you didn't stop working. It's the whole stay ready, ain't got to get ready concept, and that's what allowed you to get in and immediately contribute to your team mid-season. Like how many people can come in mid-season and be able to immediately contribute? It's a lot harder to do than it sounds. Like it is so hard to do that, to be able to just come in there and mesh. And I think if we go full circle and rewind to the beginning of the interview, you talked about playing multiple sports and learning, how to get along with multiple coaches and multiple teammates, different types of teammates. If you go full circle, you go up to you're going in, you had coaching changes at the JUCO level, you had coaching changes in the high school level, had coaching changes in the JUCO level. Then you get picked up, you get a change of school because, your original scholarship gets pulled. You go over to a team, you have to get used to their team, the new team members, brand new coaching staff there, brand new. All of that kind of just prepared you for that level. So I think it's just kind of cool to hear your story here and just seeing how it all prepped you. And before we started recording, Ryle, you mentioned like during the year of the pandemic, obviously that kind of set some people back, but you've been preparing. I want you to tell the listeners right now, those who hear this, what your goals are moving forward. Because, the collegiate career is over. So now what, right? Now people want to know, okay, what's next for him, right? So tell us what you've been up to and what we should expect to see from Ryle Owens moving forward.
So this is how I view it. It's been this way my whole career, so I'm not going to stop now. Like I said, a lot of things happen out of my control. So like I finished my last season at Young Harris, finished, ranking high and everything. So like, honestly, if COVID wasn't a factor, I would have already been a professional. It's just that like, we got kicked out of school early because of COVID. So like we missed like our last 2 months of school or something like that because COVID hit. Some people's seasons got canceled. Like it was just a big deal. So when I finished, I got contacted by a few agents and stuff. So happened to be that the countries that were available were shut down because of COVID. So I had to sit out a year, like I've always had to do, sit at a JUCO. So I'm just in the same place I've been before, which is not a problem. You know what I'm saying? Just put my faith in the right place, just keep preparing. And my agent now, like I said, is working on some deals that I had. I've had a few come through. Just waiting for the right opportunity. none of them have really been set in stone, but I definitely am picking up, a few interests and some offers that I could take, but it's just like some of the situations are pretty terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like I would be losing money instead of making money. So uh I'll just, continue to trust in God, continue to trust in my work ethic, and things will work out the way it's supposed to. I actually just came back from Vegas like yesterday. At the showcase, and where I played pretty good at, gained some attention of some important people. So like my phone's pretty much it's blowing up right now. I'm thinking, something's gonna happen really soon if I had to say so. So things are working out once again. Like so it's nothing new. It's just you gotta stay true to the process, man.
Man, I love that. I love hearing that. I can't wait to see where you go too. Like, and what you decide to do with your career. And like you said, every situation is different. I want others to know that too. Like, you might talk to somebody who's played overseas, for example, and it's in one division of like their leagues, absolute trash experience. And then like there's another person that plays 2 hours over, but it's a completely different organization, different league, and it's the best experience ever. Like every situation's different. There's a ton of different. The people will be like, well, there's a million different things to do. You got to make the right decision for yourself, because if you get yourself in the wrong decision, it can be a really difficult experience. Because every organization that plays professionally outside of the NBA, I should say, it's different. It's literally like their own little business, even if they're in the same league. It's everybody. It's just different. It's just different. So I hope that you're able to make that right decision for yourself. I know you will, just based on the conversation of how the process. And if history repeats itself, which that's the term they always say, I mean, like you said, something big's on the horizon right now, because you're putting in the work and you're getting the exposure, and something big's going to happen for you, man. Last thing I'll ask you, Ryle, before we wrap it up, is what would be the biggest lesson you think that sports have taught you in your life?
It's a lot of lessons, but I think the one for me would just be if it's what you really want to do, don't quit. I feel like quitting isn't really an option. I feel like a lot of people quit right when they're on the horizon, like right when they're about to break through. I feel like a lot of people quit because it gets a little challenging. I feel like when you're closest to what you're working for, that's when things get the hardest. So I want to say, don't quit. Persevere, be true to yourself and the grind. So whatever you put in is whatever you're gonna get out. Don't cheat it, and just stay. Keep God first, and just stay the course. That's the lesson I've learned. Just don't quit. Don't ever quit. And that's not just with sports. It's just with anything. I feel like when people are looking for jobs or whatever, they get discouraged and want to quit, or, they just want to find something else to do. I feel like if the key to getting to where you want to be is, consistency. Just keep being consistent in what you're doing, and like you have what you want. That's what I think.
I dig it. I really appreciate you joining me today, man. It was an awesome conversation, just learning more about your story. And I hope the listeners out there, for anybody hearing this, I hope you guys enjoyed it too. My biggest thing I'd ask for any listeners out there, share this story with your friends and family. Get the story out there. Hit the share button. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, the biggest thing I could ask the listeners to do right now, if you haven't done so already, leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, because the reviews will help the story get out to more people, because it helps the algorithms on Apple. That means somebody will pull up their iPhone and look at Apple Podcasts, and this might be a suggested interview. Like, that's how you do it. We want to get the word out there so that more people can hear Ryle's story. And yeah, I appreciate you, Ryle. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you a lot.
Absolutely. For the listeners out there, make sure to subscribe to the show, leave us a review, and we'll be back next week with another interview. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.